Honda finally has a dedicated electric vehicle in North America, although it's not a dedicated Honda. This is the Prologue, a good-looking electric crossover that has decent electric range and all of the features you would want in a modern car. It also happens to be the sister vehicle and essentially just a restyled version of the Chevy Blazer EV. Yes, this rides on General Motors' Ultium battery platform and shares basically all the same specs as the Blazer EV and a very similar interior. Now, being a General Motors product underneath means that this Prologue has many unique qualities when compared to the rest of Honda's lineup. Namely, this is the quietest Honda I have ever been in, not just because it doesn't have an engine, but because of the amount of road noise that comes into the cabin. So today we're going to take a look at this Prologue to see how it is as an EV and also how it differs from the rest of Honda's lineup. Now, you might be wondering, why is Honda's first dedicated EV in North America built by General Motors? And the answer is that Honda was really slow to the EV game. They do have their own dedicated EV platform coming out, but that won't be ready until 2026. And in the meantime, they wanted to get a product to consumers faster, and that's what this Prologue is. They did achieve that. It's 2024, and here's an all-electric Honda product, although it didn't happen quite as fast as they would have hoped. General Motors has had a lot of issues with this platform, from supply chain struggles due to COVID and software issues that even caused a stop sale of the Blazer EV last winter. So this hasn't been an ideal relationship, so much so that plans for Honda and GM to work together on a smaller EV platform have been scrapped. Honda's going to go off on their own EV direction, as is General Motors. I believe that this Prologue and the Acura ZDX, which is the Acura version of the Prologue, shares a lot of similarities with the Cadillac Lyriq. I believe those will be the only Honda/Acura products to ride on GM's Ultium platform. I don't think we're going to see any products past this. The relationship hasn't worked out quite as well as Honda would have hoped. Now, all of that doesn't mean that the Prologue is a bad car. I actually quite like it. I especially like how it looks. I think it is better looking than the Blazer EV, especially around back. This is very Range Rover Evoque-esque, and I think it's always a compliment to a mainstream brand when it looks like a luxury brand. I also love that there are some good color options for this Prologue. I feel like most modern day Hondas have just kind of been neutral colored, and this North Shore Pearl definitely stands out, and there are a few color options to make your Prologue look a little more unique. Now, all Prologues are powered by an 85 kilowatt hour battery pack, which in a rear wheel drive setting will go 296 miles per charge, and in an E all-wheel drive setting will go 273 miles per charge. This E all-wheel drive setting is a dual motor setup that produces 340 horsepower. All of that power is not available instantly like in most EVs. I've actually noticed this in all GM Ultium products, from GMC Hummer to Cadillac Lyriq to this Honda Prologue. They kind of give you the torque gradually, a little bit more like a gas car. I think it's to help preserve the tires and probably the electric motors as well, so you don't get the neck snapping acceleration that you might expect out of an EV, although it is still pretty quick. Another thing I've noticed is that this car has been averaging, in my time with it, 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour, which when you multiply that by 85 kilowatt hours, only gives it about a 212 mile range. So the Prologue, in my time with it, hasn't been quite as efficient as it's been advertised. It's been about 80 degrees this week, and I have been running the AC, and I've done some highway driving, although it's mostly been city driving, which is typically where EVs are the most efficient because they can regen brake as you stop. And this does have one pedal driving, but I still haven't been seeing that great of efficiency in this Prologue. All right, hopping inside the Prologue, and this is where we're really gonna notice this vehicle's GM-ness. Basically, all of the switchgear in here comes straight from General Motors, including the key fob, which is basically used on every modern GM product. Now, I do think Honda did a good job trying to bring their layout into this car, and I actually don't think most Honda customers, returning Honda customers, are going to notice that this is a GM like interior if they haven't driven modern GMs, because the layout of this is actually really similar to all of Honda's other products. You have your tablet style infotainment system with a volume knob on the top left, climate controls beneath it, a fully digital instrument cluster. So all of that is similar to the rest of Honda's products. So good job, Honda. The Blazer EV has a much different infotainment setup. It has a large 17-inch infotainment system that is curved. different from this Honda. So this is a bit more of a traditional, simple infotainment system setup. It's also not quite as big, but definitely big enough. Another thing this car has that the Blazer EV does not have is Apple CarPlay. Honda Prologue and Acura ZDX both have Apple CarPlay, even though the Chevy Blazer EV and newer model years of the Cadillac Lyriq will not have Apple CarPlay, although the current Cadillac Lyriq does, because GM is moving away from Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in their EVs. Overall, very comfortable in here. These seats are very supportive. They are just normal 8-way adjustable power seats with adjustable lumbar support. All of the switchgear is General Motors, so that's where some returning Honda customers might notice a little bit of difference. This is the column-mounted gear selector that is in most new GM products, like even the Chevy Tahoe and Cadillac Escalade, the upcoming models. On the left-hand side, you have your combo turn signal stalk and wiper controls. I've never really been able to figure out how that works, but that's where that is. Your headlight controls are in the screen. Some other modern GM products are doing that. Window switches are all GM, as is this panel down to the left. That is where you will access your sport mode and your lane keep assist. I really only have two issues with this cabin. One is this blank nothingness underneath the center infotainment system and climate controls. It's weird. It's a two-leveled system with very shallow trays and nothing else. There isn't a wireless charging pad here. There is a wireless phone charger closer to the center console itself, but neither of them are very deep. Neither of them do a good job holding things in place if you're going around a corner quickly, and both of them are just kind of plasticky and barren and not great to look at. So I wish Honda would have done a little bit more with this area. Either just remove the top section so you could fit like a purse right there, or made the top section deeper and remove the bottom section. I don't understand it. The cup holders are also very shallow. Here is my 24-ounce Hydro Flask, and it can barely stand upright. When you go around a corner, it just flings to one side, although a 32-ounce Hydro Flask does fit. So you win some, you lose some. And the second thing that I don't love about this interior is the graphics on the screen. So all of this is GM, just slightly reskinned by Honda. And I don't like what Honda's done with it. There's like a gray background, especially in the instrument cluster. I think the instrument cluster is just kind of ugly and confusing to look at. There's a lot of dials going on, and you can change the screen. You can have like Google Maps or your Apple CarPlay maps and to display less content, but I still find myself a little confused by what I'm looking at, and it just isn't aesthetically pleasing to me. You have a gray background, and then whenever there are numbers, like your range or the odometer or what gear you're in, there's an ovular cutout and the background switches to black, and then the numbers are white. I don't really understand that. In my memory, like the Honda Civic just has a black background in the infotainment system with white text. That looks very clean and simple. I like that. I don't know why they went with the gray background. Maybe it's just where the screens are and the lighting of it. You also have a gray background with white text in the infotainment system, which also just looks weird. Here in the second row of the Prologue, I have plenty of space, although not too much headspace, because there is this massive panoramic sunroof that does kind of lower the roof. So when I sit upright, my head is definitely pressing against the ceiling. If I slouch, I can fit, but not ideal for headspace. When I lower the center armrest, there are cup holders. You have a little cubby space here, air vents, 2 USB-C charging outlets, and a 110-volt outlet, which is nice to see. Seat back map pockets. Outboard armrest is comfy. No manual peasant blockers or peasant blockers of any kind. But it's fairly comfortable back here. The seats are definitely comfortable, although I would have loved to see a little more headroom. I have ridden in the back of a Chevy Blazer EV without the panoramic sunroof, and that one definitely has more headroom. All right, driving the Honda Prologue, and like I mentioned, the first thing you notice about this vehicle is just how quiet it is in this cabin. I have always thought that Hondas had a little excessive road noise, especially at high speeds on the highway, and this Prologue is noticeably quieter. Really, the only thing you notice or hear when driving this vehicle is at low speeds. This has a pedestrian safety sound. It's like a whir, whir, whir sound that definitely does come through into the cabin. You hear that at under 22 miles an hour. So when you're sitting in stop-and-go traffic, it does get a little annoying. I wish you could turn it off. You cannot. That's something that all EVs have. every brand differs, and this is the GM sound. So that's not ideal, but other than that, it is whisper quiet in this cabin. When you honk your horn, say you're in a line of cars and you honk your horn, it sounds like the car 3 cars in front of you honked their horn. That's how quiet it is in this car. And it's also very comfortable. This Prologue rides on 21-inch rims, this Prologue Elite. That's the largest rim of any Honda in their lineup. The Pilot Max is out at 20. So this is a pretty big wheel for Honda, and it still rides really well. The Ultium platform is a very comfortable one, and this Prologue is no exception. So the combination of the good ride and how quiet it is in here is very impressive and lends itself to a very premium feeling cabin. Now, if I slow down and I put the car into sport mode, which is done with a button to the left, let me make sure yes, I am in sport mode, and then I floor it. Yeah, you're not getting all of that torque right away. It still builds up even in sport mode, and then when you put it around a corner, yeah, the car really leans in the bends. And this is something I noticed with the Cadillac Lyriq, is that this Ultium platform, it isn't the most dynamic. These are pretty heavy vehicles, and you do notice it in the corners. They do lean a lot. But overall, as I said, this is a very competent vehicle. I really do like that there is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That makes the driving experience better for me. It is a feature that I really do like in the car. You have heated and cooled seats in this Elite trim level, a heated steering wheel. No Super Cruise. That is something that General Motors neglected to let Honda have access to. So you do not get the hands-free highway driving that makes GM products like amazing and incredible. The Blazer EV does have that, as does the Lyriq. I believe the Acura ZDX is getting that feature. They're calling it something else. Acura has their own name for it, some branding, but it's the same system. So that's cool, but not in this Prologue. $60,000, I really do wish it had that feature. But overall, this is a very nice vehicle to drive, spend time in. It's not very dynamic, but it is a comfortable vehicle, and I think a little bit of a step up in many ways from Honda's other products. So that's the Honda Prologue. This is a comfortable, competent, and handsome electric crossover. It's also the quietest Honda I have ever driven, lending to a more premium atmosphere than the rest of the lineup. It also charges a premium. This Prologue Elite E all-wheel drive has a sticker price just about $60,000, which is a lot of money. The Chevy Blazer EV's software issues is also a spot of small concern, but overall, I really did enjoy my time with this vehicle, and it's a premium feeling crossover. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in my next video.